Hi, everybody. Welcome to our family keynote. So we have had the most amazing day, and I hope a lot of you were here today during the day for all the panels, the conversations, the snacks, all the things. Get your book signed and all of that.
I forgot to say I'm Emily.
Oh, and I'm Sarah.
Hi. We are so thrilled to wrap up the very first New Hampshire Book Festival with this really cool event, a unique family event. We have the wonderful Kate DiCamillo, who's back. She came and talked to all of our school children yesterday, and she's back. And she's going to talk about her fantastic novel, The Magician's Elephant. I don't know how many of you read it, but it's pretty awesome, which is also a feature film. And she's going to tell us sort of like the behind the scenes of how that all happened.
But first we have some thank yous, starting with our presenting sponsor, Ledyard Bank, whose early sign-on to this adventure really gave us the green light to keep going. Our generous family sponsor, Grapponi Automotive Group, and Shaheen and Gordon, Merrimack County Savings Bank, Sheehan Finney, Nathan Wexler, who's next? Polaris Direct, Hopkinton Rotary, Delta Dental, Rathyoung and Pignatelli, and Margaret Porter. Also, the City of Concord, the Judge Family Foundation, New Hampshire Humanities, and our media sponsors, Concord Monitor, Boston Globe, NHPR, Louis Carno, Let's Move to New Hampshire, and Concord Community TV.
It's a long list, and we're so thankful for this support. We couldn't have pulled this off without our fearless partners at the Capitol Center for the Arts, where we all are today. Let's give it up for them. Gibson's Bookstore, our fantastic bookstore partner, and the New Hampshire Center for the Book, which is at the New Hampshire State Library. They've all been fantastic. And our nearly 90 volunteers. That's what it took to put this on. Thank you, the whole Concord community. You've been fantastic. We had some volunteers come from New York City, all over to help us out. So yay, thanks for that. Yeah, you all helped make this sort of crazy vision of ours a reality, and thank you.
Okay, so just one more quick note. So there's a QR code on your handout. Hopefully you guys have seen that, and there's more out in the lobby. We'll link you to our program and survey, and we really want your feedback about what you thought of this event and the whole festival, whatever you were able to get to. Make your suggestions for next year. We want to hear them. And if you do enter the survey and do the Google form, you'll be entered, if you wish, into a drawing for a $50 Gibson's gift card. So, thank you.
Now the good part. We are delighted to introduce the President and CEO of Ledyard National Bank, Josephine Moran. Thank you, Josephine.
Thank you very much, ladies. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the New Hampshire Book Festival. I'm Josephine Moran. I'm the President and CEO of Ledyard National Bank. We are so thrilled to be the presenting sponsor of the inaugural New Hampshire Book Festival. Ledyard has been around for over 33 years, and we are very committed to the community. You know, when presented with this unique opportunity to support this event, we were really excited because we felt that it really aligned so closely with our values and our commitment to the arts, to families, and also to the community. This festival, the first of its kind in our state, is a celebration of the power of storytelling and the written word. Ledyard is proud to foster a community that offers a platform to discover new authors, revisit beloved classics, and engage in thought-provoking discussions. We'd like to thank the incredible original organizers of this event: Emily Burak, Rebecca Brichetti, Sarah McCraw-Crow, and Lucy Hodder for their vision, energy, and perseverance, along with all the volunteers and community members who went above and beyond to make this book festival a reality. So, let's turn to the next page of this exciting adventure together. celebrating a community that believes in the magic of books. Once again, welcome to an evening of exploration, inspiration, and connection. And now I'd like to introduce tonight's moderator, Veronica Chow. Veronica Chow is the Boston Globe's Deputy Managing Editor, Living and Arts, and oversees the Globe's coverage of arts, books, lifestyle, and the Sunday Boston Globe magazine. She was previously the editor of the Boston Globe magazine and its City Weekly section. A lifelong lover of reading, books, and children's literature, she spent 3 happy years working as a children's book buyer at a bookstore in Alexandria, Virginia, where she's from. Please join me in welcoming Veronica.
I didn't know that you buried the lead, as they say in your business, that you were a children's book buyer.
Yeah, we were, Kate and I were talking backstage all about children's books, and I did forget to mention that part. It was my first job out of college.
I trusted you anyway. Now I really trust you. Yeah, so.
It was a long time ago, but it was one of the most fun 3 years that I've had in my life.
That's fantastic. How are y'all doing out there? Yeah, good. I have had the best time here, and I'm so glad to be a part of the inaugural part of all of this. And now Veronica's going to ask me all the tough questions. I'm going to try to answer them, and then we're going to see if y'all have questions. Raise your hand if you think you have a question. Okay, then we're not going to talk to y'all. Okay, so... surely somebody out there is going to have a question. Okay, great. That's one person. So let's allow for that. Okay, all right.
So I'm going to start by reading your bio, if that's okay. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Make it short. That doesn't like me. Yeah.
So the theme of hope and belief amid impossible circumstances is a common thread in much of Kate DiCamillo's writing. In fact, DiCamillo's own journey is something of a dream come true. After moving to Minnesota from Florida in her 20s, homesickness and bitter winter helped inspire Because of Winn-Dixie, her first published novel.
That is true, yes.
I think we all know that became a runaway bestseller and snapped up a Newbery honor.
Yeah.
You said... After the Newbery committee called me, I spent the whole day walking into walls.
That is so true. One of the first journalists that called said, "Are you gonna buy a house? Are you gonna quit your job?" And I'm like, "No." And within a year, I had bought a house and quit my job. And so it's just like, yes, I'm still walking into walls. Okay, sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Which proves that the truth changes.
Pardon? Yes, that's right. That's right, a magician's elephant reference, yeah.
Her second novel was The Tiger Rising, and it went on to become a National Book Award finalist, followed by The Tale of Despereaux, her first Newbery medal winner. She's written for a wide range of ages, received countless awards, and currently has over 44 million books in print worldwide. That's amazing.
I know I'm getting in the way of your program, but let's just talk about when Winn-Dixie was when I signed the contract for it. I was working at a book warehouse, and I had a good idea of what to expect for what would sell from a first novel from about a girl and her dog, and I thought if it was really lucky. 5,000 copies would sell, and then that would let me do well enough to go on and write another one. And I don't know, Jennifer, I don't know if you know numbers, Jennifer from Candlewick Press, but the last time I knew about how many copies of Winn-Dixie had sold, I asked it in front of a crowd, and then I cried because the answer was 11 million. So it's just like, explain that to me. See, it still makes me want to cry. So, yeah, okay. Now, Veronica, you're in charge. I'm sorry.
So, I'm really curious if we can go even farther back than that into your childhood and what drew you to reading? What did you read? How did you end up on this path to becoming a children's book writer?
I haven't always talked about this, but now I like to start with the fact that my mom read to me, and I always knew that what was in books was what I needed, and I could not wait to go to school. I have a brother who's 3 years older than I am, and he learned how to read. And when I was growing up, you didn't learn how to read until first grade, and I would bug my mother about teaching me, and she's like, no, you can just, you can go and learn. And the problem was that I got there, and for whatever reason, it was with phonics then, and phonics didn't make any sense to me. So this is all a shout out to my mother, that I came home like absolutely petrified because this thing that I knew I needed, I couldn't do. And my mother said, for the love of Pete, calm down. And said something that was super helpful to me. We'll just figure out a different way to do it. You're smart. And so she made flashcards for me, and I memorized, she taught me how to read that way. And then once I was off and running, it was like everybody needed to get out of my way. I was like a kid who read without discretion. I loved everything. If it was a book, it was good. And so that moment with my mom teaching me was a critical moment, and then another critical moment was at the small public library in our town, Cooper Memorial Public Library, and I was checking out my books, 4-book maximum, and the librarian, the head librarian, came up and said, "You may waive the 4-book maximum rule for Kate. Kate is a true reader." And that was it. Then I knew who I was, and it was such a gift because that was somebody who saw me for who I was, and I could check out as many books as I wanted at a time. So, yeah.
And were you writing as a kid?
No. I was not writing as a kid. And I talked, yesterday we were in here with 1,400 kids, which was super exciting, and I got to tell them that I didn't think books to me were so magical. I didn't think that human beings had anything to do with it. It never occurred to me. Now so many kids will have a writer come into the classroom, or they'll go to a bookstore and meet a writer. And that, I was surrounded with books, but I did not think that it was something that I didn't conceive. I wrote some very bad poetry to the dog, and my mother actually saved that and, hauled it out when I got published. It's like, yeah, but no, I never, that was it, bad poetry to the dog, yeah.
But at some point, you had a moment.
Do you want me to tell that sad story?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, So I went and got a degree in English because what else are you going to do when you love to read, right? Is your degree? And yeah, that's it. It's like, wow, I have to. You say to the people that are funding this, my mother, I have to buy all of these books, right? And read them. And occasionally they would say, what are you going to do with an English degree? And I was like, go away, don't bother me. I'm reading, And then I had a professor who, this is in my senior year, said that I had a quote, certain facility with words, you should consider graduate school. That is exactly what he said to me. I can repeat it to you verbatim. I can see myself standing there thinking, he's trying to tell me I'm the next Flannery O'Connor. And because, I was young and foolish. And so I thought, why bother with graduate school? I'll just go off and be a writer. So I got, the black turtleneck, and I put it on. And I sat around and I looked bored and disdainful because I thought that's what writers should do. And I talked about it, I dreamed about it, and I didn't do it. And that was about 9 years of my life that way. And then I thought, I could spend the rest of my life this way, talking about something I want to do and being too afraid to do it. So I started.
There's a number that I've read in several places associated with your early writing career.
I saw that on your face.
It's a really,
yeah.
So it's that you received 473 rejection letters.
Yeah, and it's another really fun thing to do with a group of kids because what I tell them, it's like, okay, so, you sit down, you make yourself do the work of this, you have a story, you send the story out into the world, what do you get back? And invariably, kids will say money. And it's like, nope. What you get is a rejection letter. And then I ask them, I have like a PowerPoint where I show them some sample rejection letters, and then I say, guess how many I got. And, you know, somebody will say 50, and everybody will think that's really funny, and somebody else will say 100, and that's usually as high as it goes. And so when the 473 comes up there, the room just erupts. I mean, they cannot believe, who is this person that keeps on going after 4? What is wrong with you? I mean, that is very clearly what they think. But I say, look, I have like stood underneath this number literally all over the world now, and I think the same thing every time. What if I'd stopped at 400? And what if I'd stopped? I wouldn't be here talking to you. I wouldn't be able to do this job that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, this work that matters so much to me.
How do you keep going? I mean, in the face
well,
of that.
and this is another thing that, you know, because I didn't used to have this part in there when I talked to the kids, but they would come up to me afterwards and say, why? Why would you keep on doing it? Because I waited so long, I saw that it was only up to me, and that nobody was going to care if I did it, and I couldn't make myself talented, I couldn't make myself lucky, but it was within my power to sit down and do the work every morning and to be relentless about putting the work out into the world. I knew it was not going to come to me. I was going to have to go to it, you know, and so I just kept on going. Thank goodness. Yeah. I mean, for you know, but for me too, because it's like it's that thing where it's like my experience, my childhood is in all of those books, and also my experience of connecting with all of you as readers is in there, and so it has been this life-changing thing for me. Yes, I say it's a job, but it has been like, it has been a spiritual undertaking almost, is that, you know, so I feel so lucky. Yeah.
So we're here to zero in part on the Magician's Elephant. And I noticed you wrote that book in 2009, and it became a movie in 2023. So almost 15 years in between, and I was curious about how that came about. Is that something that, you know, the rights were acquired and it just took a long time to make the movie, or?
Yeah, I remember and you of course know some of this because we know what you do for a living, but I remember the very first time that somebody said they want to get rights for, you know, a movie, and that was with Winn-Dixie, which actually did happen pretty quickly because that came out in 2000 and it was, and then the movie came out in 2005. But I have learned that there's always interest. They always love it, and I'll believe it when it happens. So it's like when it, and you and I were talking backstage. You have no way to control what happens other than upfront when they say we would like to make a movie, and you say yes or no. And to my way of thinking, who am I to say no? Because it's like telling your kid they can't go out into the world. You know, it's like, oh no, this book is too precious. You can't make it into a movie. I say yes because I want the story to go out into the world, and also crassly, movies are wonderful advertisements for books. A lot of people will find their way to the book because of the movie. And so I'm always open to it happening, but I cannot control it. And I don't even remember actually when the rights were optioned and sold. And it's just like, because it's all like, it's the same way that when this is like way far afield, but with the Newbery, you get an actual physical medal, which is like very heavy and significant looking. And I keep those Newbery medals, which are very impressive, in the second left-hand drawer of my desk, all the way at the very back. And like once every year, I will slowly open that drawer, look at the medals, and then slam the drawer shut. And that's it, because it's like, and that's the same way it is with, okay, we're going to make a movie. Don't think about it. It's not that's not your business. Your business is telling this story, what I'm working on now. So it's kind of like a beautiful dream that somebody is constructing without me being, does that make sense? Yeah. What do you want to say about that? Yes.
No, I think that's, you can't sit around worrying about it. I understand
No,
that.
or trying to control it, it's like, it's just, and
Very sane way to approach it.
yeah, and also we were talking backstage, like with Winn-Dixie, Wayne Wang directed that. He is a director who really likes working with writers. He said, why don't you come out here and help me with the screenplay? I said, I don't know anything about a screenplay. And then if that was a movie, it would be me out there typing a screenplay and Wayne saying, okay, do this, do that. I didn't know. I learned. It was fun to be a part of it, to get to go to the set, to be there the day that Dave Matthews was there, and also to arrive the day after they'd spent a solid, this is before computer stuff, like a whole day trying to get a parrot to land on a dog's head. So when I showed up on the set, nobody was happy with me because it was just like it took forever for the parrot to go, yeah, I'm going to do that, and the dog to go, yeah, go ahead. But so, I mean, that was really fun, but it's just like, and then, other, like Despereaux, like I went out and talked to them, and then they constructed this beautiful movie. And like with Flora and Ulysses, I went out and did a little cameo, which is fascinating and interesting. So it's just like, it's like the circus comes to town and you get to visit it, kind of. That's how I feel about the movies, yeah.
Of those books that have been made into movies, do you have a favorite movie?
I never talk about favorites because it's this. I feel the same way that parents must when I watch this when I do it with an audience. When a kid will raise their hand and say, "Which of your books do you like the best?" And then I'll say, "Is that your mother sitting next to you?" "Yeah." "Is that your brother?" "Uh-huh." "Which of them do you like the best?" And you can see the parent blanch. It's just like they look like they're going to pass out. And so I never. And that's doubled even more with something that somebody else has made from. It's just like I love them all. It's exciting to me that they all got made. Winn-Dixie, as a film and as a book, has a special place in my heart because, without, sounding cute, everything that's happened to me as a writer has happened because of Winn-Dixie. That was the golden door that I got to walk through and do this, so that maybe that one, yeah. But not a favorite.
So we were talking about how Winn-Dixie hews really closely to the book, but Magician's Elephant is pretty different. And so was that a surprise to you? Did you just hand it over and then go see it at a screening?
I got to, they were working on it during the pandemic, and I would get to see, the art, and I knew the general story line that they were doing, and so it wasn't a surprise. And it's like, and I learned this when I was doing that screenplay thing with Wayne Wang, where it's just like, they're different art forms. So it's like you can't, it's impossible to translate literally, a book into a movie because there are different demands on how it has to unfold. And we were saying backstage, I remember Wayne Wang calling me and saying, can you write a scene where there's a goat in it? And it's like, okay, so I would put a goat in there and I would write it, but it's just like things are added in there that are not in the book. And it's never exactly the same. And it's also the thing where we all as readers, most of us have, I can see y'all, how many of you when you're reading a book see it in your head? Raise your hand. It's always astonishing to me because it literally is always like about 70% of the room, which is what the science says. So I always think, how is the movie in your head going to be the movie that they make, because we all carry our own movies. So it's just like it's letting that go. Yeah.
I also read that Magician's Elephant was adapted as a stage musical and performed by the Royal Shakespeare Company during the pandemic.
Yes, Royal Shakespeare Company. Was
that a surprise?
That was, again, it was something that was in the works for a long time, and I didn't, it was the pandemic ended up not getting to go and see it, and it is gorgeous. And I have a friend of my brother's who went and saw it in person and said it was the best. So it's gorgeous. And again, it was a beautiful dream that somebody constructed, and it's got incredible music. Yeah. So
now that you've had so many books made into movies, do you ever, when you're writing, think about its potential as a movie?
Veronica sent the questions in advance, when I saw that one, I thought that's really interesting, and it doesn't, not at all do I think of in terms of that, because it would be the same as writing towards the market, and I can't, or the Newbery medals at the back of the drawer. It's like I can't think about any of that. I can only think about it's a really good question. And I hope that my brain doesn't start thinking that way, It's like, I hope that's not suggestion, Yeah, no, I can only think about the story and not in terms of the movie, yeah.
Maybe you can't tell us this, but are there any more in the works?
Sure. I believe that at some point, I don't know if y'all know The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, which that's been turned into an opera, and it's a beautiful opera, and it's also been turned into a wonderful, there's a stage adaptation that a lot of community theaters do, which is really good. And the movie rights have been, it will happen at some point, but in the meantime, I'm just typing my little stories, and not thinking about it, yeah.
So I also wanted to talk about illustrators. You've had so many amazing illustrators on many of your books. Can you describe what that process is like?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that, because there is just a real misconception, I think, about how it happens. And in a weird way, it's almost like a movie, because I visually see as I write, and then this is the wonderful, beautiful thing about children's books. You get the illustrations a lot of the time, but it's like I see something and the artist sees something else, and we do not work side by side. I do not choose the illustrators, and I have not met illustrators until the book is done, is generally the way it goes. And like with Tale of Despereaux, that was not the way I saw it at all. And I think that Timothy Basil Airing's illustrations are divine and make the book better, and they replace the images in my head. But like with Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, Bagram-e Batuin, he painted exactly what I saw without ever meeting me, without us ever talking. And that was like unnerving. I mean, the hair on my arms went up when that art started to come in. So I see the art, but I'm not, it comes to me for approval, but I'm not generally a part of it as it is made.
So I know you were, is that the time?
Oh, we've been 20 minutes. Okay. Wow. We've
you.
really been, we want to leave time for y'all the one person who wanted to ask a question. So that's why we asked for that little bit of time. Okay.
I want to ask one last, and then we'll move to that. But
yeah.
So this is something that comes up a lot at the newspaper, parents and other adults who really want to help kids discover the joy of reading. Some kids, we tend to blame phones for everything, but I know you were an ambassador for the Library of Congress, trying to encourage literacy and encourage kids to read. How do we do that?
How do we do it? One of the first things that I always say is let your kids see you reading for your own pleasure, as opposed to saying, you go read for 15 minutes. And also, and somehow or other we've lost sight of this. It is a privilege to get to read a book. It is a privilege and a joy. And so it should not be presented as a task, but rather, lucky you, right? And wait for it. No matter where you are in this country, unbelievably, there is a library where a librarian is waiting to bend over backwards, I guarantee it, to find the book that you need and put it in your hands, and it costs you nothing, and they are waiting, they want to do that, and that is astonishing, and we forget it. So take your kids to the library, read it to your kids, read with them, and let them see you reading for your own pleasure and joy, and let's not forget what an absolute privilege it is to have access to books and to be able to read. So that's my impassioned speech there. Yeah, okay. And I wonder if the lights can come up just a little bit so we can see faces, because I do like to see faces. Do you want to start right there? Yep, I'll repeat your question so everybody can hear it, okay? That is a wonderful question. Do I like to write short books better or long books better? I have both. I have Mercy Watson. Do y'all know the pig who likes, yeah. And it's funny because the way I think of it is like if you go to a really fancy restaurant, and a lot of times they'll give you like sorbet in between meals. So I like to write something longer and then get to write that sorbet feeling kind of book, which is Mercy Watson, because it's light and fun. And it's scary to write something longer because you have to carry it for a longer period of time. And it's really fun to write those shorter things with Mercy. Also because with Mercy, when you write books for kids, people will say this all the time. What lesson did you mean to impart here? And in Mercy Watson, nobody ever learns anything. So it's just like that pig wants toast. So when you're writing a book, you just put her in a situation and then get out of the way and let her get to the toast, right? So those are fun to do. Yes. Did I have a pig that liked to have toast? No, do you want me to tell you the story of where Mercy Watson came from? Yes? Okay. So it's a long story because all of my stories are long, and I am sorry. But I was saying this to Veronica backstage, I am a lifelong eavesdropper. Both of us were about the same age, and we both read Harriet the Spy growing up, which is just like a really critical kind of book for eavesdropping. So I always have a notebook, and I'm always listening to what's going on out there, but also to what's going on in my own head. I was sitting on an airplane, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I saw a pig's face, and underneath it in neon I saw the word mercy, and I thought, ha ha, a pig named Mercy, that's funny, right? And so I wrote it down in my notebook, and then when I got home I started to play around with it. I figured out that Mercy lived with Mr. and Mrs. Watson, and they're not pigs, but they've kind of lost sight of the fact that Mercy is a pig. And so that seemed funny. But it was one of those things that it wasn't quite working right. And then I got my very first brand new car of my adult life. It was very exciting. The first day that I had it, I took a friend to the airport. She got into my car with a gigantic piece of toast. And she started to eat it in my brand new car, and spraying greasy crumbs everywhere. And I said, can you wait until you get to the airport to finish your toast? And she kept on eating it, and in between that, she started lecturing me about toast and how it tasted better if somebody else had made it for you, and and one of our kids had made the toast for her, and how it should be buttered all the way to the edge, and how it should have a great deal of butter on it. Once I got rid of her, I knew what was missing in the book about the pig, which is what the pig loved more than anything else, which is toast with a great deal of butter. So there you go. Yeah. Back there, yep, you look very desperate to ask your question. Yeah.
Hi. So a piece of advice you could go back and give your younger self when you were starting out, and advice to young middle school authors that are trying to fine-tune their craft.
Okay, so it's a two-part question. You want to know what I would say to myself? If I could go back and talk to my young self, I would say, take off that black turtleneck and quit posturing and figure out that this has nothing to do with you being seen. It is everything about seeing the world, rather. That's what I would say to myself. However, I'm grateful for that time that I had because it let me figure out it was only on me whether or not the work was going to get done. What would I say to the middle school writer now? Same thing that I would say to the 80-year-old writer or the 56-year-old writer. I would say you have to read as much as you can, and if you're not thrilled to get that assignment, then you probably don't want to be a writer. And then you have to figure out a way to write. It took me a long time. What worked for me was 2 pages a day. It might not be what works for you. It was a way to coax myself into it. It's still mostly what I do. No matter how busy you are, you can find time to write 2 pages a day. So you read, you write. You're going to have to rewrite. I don't care how, you sit down and you think, okay, I'm meant to do this. And it comes out terrible. And that's just the truth. There's a great book called Art and Fear that talks about how there's one Mozart born every century. Here's the notes, puts them down on paper, and then they say, guess what? It's not you. And so if you want to do this, you're going to have to rewrite it. It is not going to come out the first time. Read, write, rewrite. Keep a notebook and pay attention to everything. Everything is your business. That's how I feel. It's like people say, are you ever worried about what you're going to write about, that you'll run out of ideas? I'm like, have you been on a city bus recently? Have you watched people and listened to what they say? It's just like, it's all your business. Keep the notebook so you can write it down. And then the last thing is you're going to have to be relentless. Nobody is going to say, hey, why don't you write us a book? You're going to have to keep on trying, So that's it. That's the advice. Yeah. And like I said, it's doesn't matter. You can get published if you're 10 years old, and you can get published if you're 90. Okay, all the way in the back, so we don't make you right back there. Yeah, it's like yes, you look very worthy. I feel like I'm the great pumpkin here, looking for. Yes, there you go.
I really appreciated hearing you talk about your mother and using the word relentless because it's something that we use here. But the stories that my son and I have shared of yours don't usually include a mother. And I'm curious how, if she was such a big influence in your life, why they don't appear in your stories.
It's a good question. I grew up in a single parent home, and it was my mother that was there. And I think when I started to write, it's kind of like in a mirror image way. The parent that was there, it was like there was safety in her. So without even thinking about it and doing it subconsciously, that was the parent I subtracted. And then halfway through, the mothers start showing up. And then by the time we get to Ferris, has anybody read Ferris? Oh, that's nice. Thank you. So that Ferris is and this is what I was saying earlier when I'm talking about it being kind of a spiritual undertaking. It's just Ferris is the story of a complete family. This is a child who was loved and in a complete family from the minute that she was born. And I could not have done that without writing my way towards that wholeness. Does that make sense to you as a journalist? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the gift of telling these stories. So yes, right there. Yes, you looking around wondering if it's you. Yes, yeah. And I could probably hear you from here, but there you go.
Do you write on paper or type on a computer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have a lot more confidence for a story on when I'm typing. But I also, all the creative kind of like stuff, I will keep a notebook and I journal in it. But I do not, when I sit down to write, it's at the computer because it makes me feel more grown up, maybe, or like, it might turn into something. It's an interesting, I don't know if any of you know about it, but at the University of Minnesota, so when you're planning your next vacation to the University of Minnesota, there's a great collection called the Curlin Collection, and it's children's books, authors, and illustrators, and you can go into that collection and you can see Catherine Patterson's rough drafts, you can see the original artwork for Goodnight Moon, and you can see all of my rough drafts. And it's really embarrassing. And the reason that they're in there is because I sat next to somebody once at a luncheon who said, I saw your first drafts of Winn-Dixie and I can't believe how terrible they are. And I said, I know. And she said, and I looked at him, I thought, if this is where you're allowed to start, then I can do it too. And she was getting her book, her first book was getting published. So, I mean, that's why they're there. It's really embarrassing, but it also shows that that's what it is just work. And you can see, even on a typewriter, it doesn't look great. Yeah, so, right there, yes. Are you cold in here? No, okay, good. How many chapters? Oh, that's one of those things that I never think about because it would make me like pass out. It's like, I said that I write by doing 2 pages a day. So when I sit down to write, I don't think about chapters, and I also don't think, wow, I'm writing a novel now. What I think is I'm writing 2 pages today, and as soon as I get those 2 pages done, I can get up. And that's how I think about it, Yes. What's the process? This is where Veronica's going to answer. Yeah, because it is, and we were actually talking about this backstage. It is so laborious. They work so hard. So the first thing that happens is there's a screenplay, and once the screenplay is written, then they are on set for how long usually? It's like forever. I was saying this to Veronica when we were back there talking, when I did that cameo in Flora and Ulysses, which I'm on the screen for like a nanosecond. I just walk by, like this. And it wasn't me having to do something differently. Everybody was doing something, but they would do it again, move this over here, move that over there. I mean, it is so painstaking what they do. And it turns into this magical thing, and it also says to me, let me go back to writing books, because it doesn't seem as hard as making a movie. So, yeah. Right there, please. Yes, yeah.
Sorry. I was wondering if you always liked writing or if you had to sort of learn how to like it.
Yeah, I still don't like writing. It's like it's the Dorothy. Is it Dorothy Parker? Yeah, I hate writing. I love having written, and I figured that math out pretty early on. Like when I was working at the book warehouse, I had the alarm set for 4:30. I would get up, I would do the 2 pages, and then I would be at work by 7. And the rest of the day was easy because I'd done the real work already, And so I learned that the me that got up and did that work was going to make the other me very happy for the rest of the day. But I never look forward to doing it. I've learned to do it early in the morning before I can talk myself out of doing it. And the other thing is, for those of you who want to do it, learning what your patterns are, how you think. I don't know about you. I've got the critic that shows up and says, you don't know what you're doing. This will never work. You're a lousy writer. That critic wakes up at about 9 o'clock. It sleeps in. I'm up at 5:30. And so I have beat the critic. And so I don't know. It's learning to work around yourself, right? And you do need the critic. You need the critic. But you don't need it when you're creating in the beginning. I want to make sure that I haven't gotten people that in the back. Yes, oh yes, you desperately waving your hand. It's a plaid shirt, I think, yes.
Would you be willing to tell us which books are lovingly perched on your nightstand right now?
Oh, I have books all over the house. And so I have different, I coax myself through the day with books, and then books that are waiting for me at night. And what's waiting for me when I get home is Michael Ondaatje's The Cat's Table. Anybody read that? So good. And also I'm reading, I love short stories, and I love the anthologies that come out. I'm reading the O. Henry prize stories. And then downstairs, I'm rereading a lot of Hans Christian Andersen right now. And I can't get over how good those are. And I've also got waiting for me the collected Eudora Welty, which I reread every couple of years. So it's just, yeah, the books are all over the house, and I'm always reading and rewarding myself for having written, and then I get to read. Yeah. Yes, right there behind. Yeah, that person has to ask the question. Yes.
I was wondering where you find the motivation to continue writing when you've hit like a roadblock or writer's block.
My official position on writer's block is that it doesn't exist. There's just a bad writing day, and there can be like 365 of them. But this is the thing, and the way that I eased myself into it by doing 2 pages, and I have found that no matter how bad things are, I can make myself do those 2 pages, and I don't know when the day is that I show up, and you don't have this luxury because you have to write for deadline, right? But it's like the day that I'm ready to give up, then something will suddenly change. So what I found is to keep on showing up. And I've also learned to ask myself the question, do you not want to keep on going on this because you're afraid? Answer is usually yes. Do you not want to keep on going on this because you're feeling lazy? Answer is usually yes. So then I just keep on going. And I have found that the story will find a way. There are stories that don't work, but I've learned to keep them too, because sometimes toast with a great deal of butter will show up and solve the problem, so you don't know. And so you just keep on showing up and doing your work. 2 more, says Jennifer Roberts. Okay. You all the way, yes, you right there, yeah. You look like you're up for the challenge, yeah.
How easy is it to get the inspiration?
How easy is it to get the inspiration? That notebook that I carry with me, I have a running list in the back of words and images that I think might turn into stories. So the inspiration is pretty easy. I'm always looking at that list to see, is this thing ready to come forward? Does this want to work now or not? But it's that doing the work and carrying it all the way through to completion. But inspiration is everywhere because the world is so beautiful and terrifying. Okay, whoever asked the last question, you have a big responsibility. You kind of have to sum up the conversation, and then you have to move the conversation forward. So who's going to do that? And the hands stay up. It's always amazing to me. It's like I would pass out. Yeah, it's like, okay, the blue, yes, right? Yes, you're going to do it. You know what? It's so strange that I cannot keep this number in my head. I think I'm at 36. And there's still a part of me that is back there thinking, I hope I'm going to get published. So there's just kind of like this disbelief about, and I think I've got 36 out in the world, and I've got 6 more in the works. So we're going to watch a movie together. Y'all are spectacular. Can we have a round of applause for Veronica? Thank you, who is also a book lover. I'm so grateful to all of y'all for being here and for believing in books and the power of reading aloud. Can I ask if there are any teachers in the audience? Oh, wow. Do you teachers read out loud? Yes. round of applause. Go take a break and we'll start the movie. Thank you.